Now let's talk about vaccine hesitancy. What is it? It's basically the delay or refusal to take a vaccine. And it's more common than you would imagine. It is the biggest threat to the global rollout. Bigger than shortages and side effects. You just saw what's happening in Europe. And this is not something new. Vaccine hesitancy is as old as vaccines themselves. There is no single reason for it. In some places, hesitancy is based on religion. Elsewhere, it is politics. Whatever be the reason, the end result is never good. Look at some of the examples from history. These are all instances where vaccine hesitancy led to outbreaks. Stockholm, 1873. Vaccination rate dropped from 90% to 40%. It was triggered by a religious anti-vax campaign. Guess what happened the same year? A deadly smallpox epidemic. Here's another example, and this is from the UK and Ireland in the year 2000. People started linking the measles vaccine to autism. So vaccination rates dropped below 80%, and the result was this: 300 cases, 100 hospitalizations and 3 deaths, all of them preventable. The bottom line is this: vaccine hesitancy is dangerous, deadly in fact. The World Health Organization ranks it as one of the top 10 global health threats. So how do you beat this threat? Through proper messaging. And this messaging must come right from the top. Unfortunately, that's not happening. Think about the WHO. You would expect them to give facts and robust advice. Instead, we're getting confusion and conjecture. Let me show you what WHO chief scientist Soumya Swaminathan said on Saturday. She was talking about the Wuhan virus variant detected in India. Listen to what she said.
The one that was first identified in India, the B1617, is likely to be a variant of concern because it has some mutations which increase transmission and which also potentially could make them resistant to antibodies that are generated by vaccination or by natural infection.
Let me highlight a few things she said. B1617 is likely to be a variant of concern. It could potentially make them resistant to antibodies. Likely and potentially, two things you do not want a health expert to say, because this is in the realm of possibility. And don't get me wrong, future studies may very well prove her right. But why not wait for those studies? Why jump the gun? We ask this because words have consequences, especially when coming from the WHO's top scientist. She says the new variants may evade the vaccines. Now, there are a lot of people undecided on whether to get the shot, and those people may be swayed by such remarks. They may think, if the WHO says it's pointless, why take it at all? This is irresponsible, not to mention dangerous. When top officials make such careless remarks, it becomes our duty to set the record straight. So let me say this again. The vaccines are safe and effective. Variant or not, make sure you get the shot at the earliest, whenever your turn comes. And coming back to the variant, can it really dodge the vaccine? Last week, India's top medical body, the ICMR, published a study. It concluded that Bharat Biotech's Covaxin was effective against the double mutant. So was the WHO not aware of this study? Or did they choose to ignore it? Or do they disagree with it? And we're not waiting for the answers because we have been tracking the WHO's action since December 2019. And we can tell you that their messaging and their response has been botched up from the word go. December 2019 is when the World Health Organization got news of the virus in Wuhan. What did they do about it? Nothing for more than a month. It was on the 30th of January that Dr. Tedros finally declared a public health emergency. It took him another month to utter the word pandemic. A lot of harm was done during this time. Some countries banned travel with China. They were declared racist by the World Health Organization. Dr. Tedros called these bans an unnecessary interference. 1 year later, those countries stand vindicated. What about lockdowns? The WHO's envoy, David Nabarro, said lockdown should be the last resort. Today, this is true because we have vaccines. But last year, this advice made no sense whatsoever. Lockdowns were humanity's first line of defense, a circuit breaker for countries to build up resources. But nothing compares to the WHO's advice on masks. Look at this headline, and I'm quoting, "Face masks could do more harm than good if used incorrectly." Now, this is a classic example of negative advice. Let me explain. The WHO is trying to ask people to wear their masks correctly, properly. But this statement does the very opposite. It scares them. What could they have done instead? Maybe a campaign video on how to wear masks correctly. This is Communication 101. Positive messages stick, negative ones do not. These are just a few instances where the WHO stumbled, when their messaging confused people. Unfortunately, it happened all the time last year. From masks to lockdowns to travel bans to now vaccines. The World Health Organization has been like a loose cannon, firing off assumptions and conjecture. You expect that from politicians, not from health experts. But then again, the WHO stopped being a health body in 2020. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.